We are interviewing Brian Drummond and Brynna Drummond. Brynna?
Exactly.
Brynna
right.
Okay, good. I was intimidated at first.
Oh, she's got Brynna, and you nailed it. Good job.
I have a very hard to pronounce name, so I know the pain.
For dysfunctional.
And we're joined today by Brohoof Brony. Yeah, awesome.
Guys, what's her name?
Brynna.
Jando? Oh, it was kind of close. Brynna. There it is. Yeah, he was only like half.
Yeah, it's like rhythm.
Yeah.
It's like Mareka's. It's like
no, that one's a tough one. Mareka's the tough.
Just think Jamaica, Mareka. That's how we remember that one.
Mareka.
Just think Winna, Brynna. Oh, sort of.
It's like what I think it was like not Brenna, which is like hen, Bren. It's
What's
like grin.
Brynna. There it is. Grinnin.
Brin.
Ooh, there. That's a
Now I have to like grin all the time. It's gonna be my trademark.
Fire away.
Alrighty then. Just give us a little quick overview of both of your careers in voice acting to give everybody some groundwork.
Wow, quick overview.
Yeah, just a quick overview.
This isn't another
As quick
job
as
we're
possible.
offering.
Well, let's see. I've been voice performing on numerous things since probably about late '93, early '94 when I did a G.I. Joe series and Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. That was the first stuff that I started with way back in the early '90s. Really? Pre this person even being any part of the world. And have done thousands of episodes, hundreds of episodes of things since, from Transformers to Inspector Gadget to Wolverine in animated Marvel series to ponies and Barbies and chipmunks and animals and dogs and you name it, it's come out of my mouth in some form or another. It's been fun.
All right. Mm-hmm. And how'd you get started, Brynna?
I think I actually first started like on camera, very, very small. I think I was a baby in one commercial. And I was also a toddler for like a Country Elmo commercial. Yeah.
Wow.
And that slowly progressed. I think when you had been doing voiceover for a while, eventually you'd hear stuff from our agent saying, "Oh, we're looking for a young girl and whatever." And he said, "Oh, well, maybe Brynna might be able to do that." And then it slowly sort of, I've got more auditions. Hey, she can do the
Yeah, all
voices.
three kids have done a number of things, and it's usually, I'm never like, you need to be actors. I'm usually like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do it. usually it's true. An agent will call because they get a breakdown on a show. Here are the characters that are being cast, and of course, obviously, I've been with my agent for over 20 years, since 91, so we're coming up on 25 years, and he'll be like, yeah, he knows generally the ages of our children, and something comes up, or it's like, yeah, they need a 10-year-old girl on this, or did you think one of your, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I could show me the sides, and obviously because I know how to interpret animation sides, then I can say whether I think that, one of the kids might be appropriate for it or what they're looking for, and a few of the times they go in and read and land the gigs, and then have fun with it, and we have such a cool crew. I mean, voice actors, you guys meet lots, and there's so few egos, and they're a cool group of people. Whether you're first time in an episode or you've done hundreds of episodes, everybody's really cool. So it's a great place to, if you're gonna end up throwing a kid to the wolves in the acting business, voiceover is one there's so much less judgment than on camera stuff. So it's a great place to play around.
All right. Got something?
All right. Yeah, one of my questions from Brohoof Brony is, and this applies for both of you, is what is the one main thing that changed in your guys' lives when you became voice actors?
Wow. What is the main thing that changed in my life?
I think for me, probably that I consider it a job. So, in like grade 10, we're doing like grad transitions and different things like that, and all the students would be like, "Oh, well, maybe I could work here after school." But then I'm thinking, I already have a job. Like, I'm already kind of a little ahead of the game. So I guess in that sense, also because we're in a small school, I was a little different and where I was. So that was interesting. But it was definitely a plus, I gotta say.
It was a plus?
Yeah, I like that.
So from not being a voice actor to being one, did anything change at school for you? Does anything change in your life?
There are sometimes I'd obviously have to miss school.
Yeah.
But You know,
It positively
work
affects your bank account.
I'd imagine.
Definitely a
That's a good benefit.
Yeah, that's a good benefit. We always say, you know, when you're doing some of these gigs, it's a lot of hours at McDonald's to kind of make up for some of the fun money you can make working with some of the crew that we get to work with.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, it's and as far as me, I don't know if I would say there was a great change because I trained as an actor in a theater school, Studio 58 in Vancouver, which is one of Canada's best theater schools. Wanted to be a theater performer, but there's really not great money in theater unless you're probably working West End Broadway or West End of London or Broadway, New York. It's really difficult to make a decent living as a stage performer. And so I looked at film and I started doing small parts in film and TV in Vancouver, like X-Files, Stargate, you know, all those things that were shot in Vancouver, all the sci-fi series, bits and pieces in those shows. Nothing major though, because I tend to play cops a lot, and I always wanted to do characters. I was much more interested in characters, but they didn't, you know, you get typecast a lot. They look at you a certain way in film that you look like this, so that's what we're going to read you for. Yeah, but I'd like to, no. Well, you look is how we make casting decisions. Then the acting is sometimes almost secondary in North America. I think in British filmmaking and it's different. You know, they get a lot of real character-looking people that you wouldn't think would be that role, and they make a choice because they're just great performers. But voice acting came along, and I didn't know anything about it. And when I found out I can be characters and still be paid well and have so much fun, that it kind of changed my outlook on what that industry was for sure. And it made me actually change my goals a little bit. I changed the pursuit of what I wanted to do. So I didn't think, oh, I need to be on in West End London, or I don't need to be on Broadway, and I don't necessarily need to be, although I love still working in film and TV, a film star. I thought, this is an avenue that's really fun, that maybe I can make this work better, and I focused more of my time and energy, and then it exploded for me that I ended up doing, that's what I've been doing nonstop since. Not full time in the early 90s, I was still doing other stuff, but easily since 2000 it's been full time that I haven't done anything else besides voice performing.
All right. So with your extensive career in voice acting, how do you feel that the industry has changed since you started to now?
Well, how do I feel the industry has changed? Well, it's changed as far as our recognition of people even knowing that a voice, there's like a face behind a voice performer. That has changed incredibly in the past 15 years because of, obviously, with the advent and the growth of YouTube and the internet, and people having so much information available that they can find out anything about anybody just by pulling up a cast list. Like usually when I was a kid, you'd watch TV, the names would scroll by so fast on who played who, and by that time I'm off doing something else, and it's not like you'd record it and pause and go, who's Scooby-Doo's voice? Right? And then look them up. Like, where would you look them up? There's nowhere to look anything up. Now you can look up and find out anything you want. So it's, as far as people knowing who we are and that it's a real viable industry and an exciting one, that's changed an incredible amount since I started in the early 90s, and since people had worked so hard for years in the 70s and 80s doing amazing animation, and there's a greater appreciation for it, I think, like with this, with the cons and the conventions and people that want to meet the voices and talk about how they do that work. That's what's pretty exciting. A lot of performers didn't, and even my agent, when I first told him that I wanted to do voice work, and this was in the early 90s, even to him, and this is an acting agent, he was like, I said, yeah, I want to do voice work. You know how I can get into that, like animation? And he was like, what? You want to do? Be a radio announcer? What? That was his voice. I have a different agent now that's with the same, he doesn't sound like him, but that's what he said. Why do you want to be a radio DJ for? I was like, no, not a radio, like a voice actor. What is that? Like he didn't even, it wasn't even, like he didn't, not even something that he really thought was a thing. And I'm like, no, I think it's something, it was to him, theater and film, that's acting, right? And it is. But now I think there's a lot more belief, and even amongst really big performers, you can see by the amount of huge movies that are made and the great performers that they get in them, and the big names that they attach to them, that it's something pretty special, and and I love it. It's been a blast but it's certainly changed in 20 years, like big time. Before all you young people.
Our young people and
they're
our
like-
technology.
They're like the 90s? When was this?
I just started existing.
Exactly. I know.
All right.
Okay. So another question is, so what advice would you give for someone who would want to kind of be a voice actor, to experience what you experience? What advice would you give for them to start out with that?
Advice for voice actors is probably the one I get the most because of how this, like, just realize it comes right off the last question you said, because people see what it actually is, and that it's really fun, it's really interesting, there's great people that you meet when you do it, there's great people that you work with when you do it. So how do you get involved with it? I think a first part of being a voice performer is you have to enjoy acting. For one thing, you have to enjoy being someone other than you, as in some form or another, whether it's doing improv or whether it's doing a play or whether it's just shooting your own videos, shooting your own movies, doing that. You have to enjoy that. If you're like, get the camera off me, or you get nervous on a microphone, it's probably not going to go that well for you, being in a studio on a mic or on a camera. But if you enjoy that, I like doing crazy voices, I like performing, I'm a jokester, I like improving, I like, bouncing, dialogue off of other people. That is the first starting place. And if you like doing that, getting involved in voiceover further, you probably want to educate yourself further as an actor. Now, whether that's a theater school or just an improv group or just local community theater. That's what I started with when I was 17, 18 years old, just amateur theater. That can build those skills as well. And then once those skills are built, whether it's school, then you have to be in a place where that work actually happens as far as animation concerned. You can work in probably almost any small town or big town and be on the radio side of a voiceover industry, like radio announcers and some commercial work and things like that. That can happen in almost any city because they always need people. But as far as producing animation, there's certain hubs where that takes place, and you probably have to be there. Even though we're at a point now where you can record things at home and send it in, lots of animated series, they still kind of want to see you or get the group together. Like My Little Pony records, everybody records together almost all the time. There's a few people around there because Tara's in LA and certain people record at different times if they're not available. Most of the shows try to record together. Unless it's dubbing, then you record one person at a time, like Funimation stuff or Ocean Group stuff. That's separate. But you need to be in a center where the work is done once you've got to a point where I love performing, I love acting. And if you're at a center where that work is done, there's probably other work as well, like radio work, like TV work, like plays that are happening, and you can keep your instrument tuned. Because what I tell people, and I've told my son this, he's auditioning for theater schools right now, is you have an instrument, like it's your vocal cords and your body and is your instrument, but you have to have somewhere where you can practice it. Because if you just say, I'm really good at voices, and if you're never practicing anywhere or around people you can practice with, and if it was a guitar, you would want to be around people who you could jam with, right? And get better and learn, that guy plays jazz, that's cool. That guy knows the classical, that's cool. That guy showed me some rock stuff, that's cool. And that's a bit what voiceover is, one aspect of acting. Film's different, theater's different, and if you're around where people can teach you that kind of stuff, and you can learn more, you have a chance to kind of get your foot in the door, and by people you meet as well. Because I'll run across guys and go, man, I just met this person that they did one little thing with them, they're really good. And I can tell directors that, or I can tell my agent that, and you want to be around those people. So once you gain some of those skills, you want to get where the work is, and that's places like New York, and like Vancouver, and like Toronto, and like LA, and maybe some work in Seattle. I don't know how much happens here in San Francisco, but you want to be where the centers are, where that happens. ADR, tons of the dubbing work for anime stuff in Texas, and even in Florida. You want to find the center where you want to go and say, I'm going to take a crack at it there.
All right. How are we doing on time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. All right. So just this one's for Brynna because I don't want her to feel left out. But do you feel like this is a career that you want to continue pursuing? Like, is this something you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life?
I think so. Like, I really like doing voice acting. I've also thought a little bit about some on-camera stuff too. It's a little bit about my dad's talking about with seeing different things and kind of getting inspired by different things. Like, it sounds so bad, but like binging stuff on Netflix, it gets me so inspired about wanting to be on that show or whatever. So yeah, I think I'm really lucky to be able to be a voice actor at my age and still in high school. So then once I'm out of high school, I can maybe take that and use it somewhere else. And yeah.
All right.
All right, let's see. Okay, we've covered that. I pretty much think that's a wrap for Brohoof Brony.
All right. I've got a few more.
Sure.
You have the picture.
I do actually.
Okay.
Oh, he's got it. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, we did a little
background
research.
check on
Yeah, we
it.
did a little bit of research, and we found a few interesting roles, including Mr.
roll.
Mr. Poofles.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Poofles.
You remember?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Barbie movie. Yes.
I'm gonna show it to the camera
Oh,
here.
let's see if we can match it.
That got a good laugh out of us.
We weren't breathing after we saw it.
Vegeta's voice coming out of that, we're like,
Yeah.
That'd be- but yeah.
Cheetah was also
Wouldn't have thought.
Mr. Puffles. It's got some of the sound like, over 9,000, you get the Vegeta sound and then it turns out, gets into the dog sound. I mean, it all works. It all works.
But yeah, with this in mind, it is inevitable that a voice actor is gonna get into some sillier roles if they want to hone their craft. So how do you feel about that? Do you generally just ignore it, or do you share it with friends or family for a good laugh?
Oh, those are my favorite ones. Like the most bizarre. Yeah, they're the best ones. It's like when we're on shows, honestly, every actor is like, we laugh. It's like, okay, Brian, you're going to be the squirrel in this one, and he doesn't have a ton that he says, but he's trying to protect his nuts, and you can edit that part out if you want.
We're keeping it.
We're keeping it. So he's and then he falls out of the tree, bounces down this hill, and then he rides a dog over to the neighbors. But you're like, what am I supposed to come? And you got to come up with something on the spot, right? So that's hilarious. We'll do these sounds, we'll do weird sound effects, we'll just do crazy stuff. And then we look at each other and laugh and going, we get paid for this. Or you go and say, what are you going to tell you? How was work, honey? Well, what'd you do today?
Same old, as well.
Yeah, protect my nuts. It's same old. I was a squirrel today, but those are the best ones, like to do that kind of stuff. And sometimes they're so fun because they're not really predetermined with the dialogue. You can play around. Sometimes the animators don't have the creators don't have a big idea of exactly how they want it to be, so you can come up with the character yourself. I love those ones where it's not really set in stone about, I only see it this way. When they're really flexible with what they want, then you can say, how about this? Is he a little older? And they say, well, we haven't really got the full design for that guy yet, so yeah, I like that. And you'd be surprised how much stuff comes out of what we just throw out there, and they design something around it because we throw out some bizarre sound that they think we're going to make them like this because of the voice that he gave them. So those are my favorite. Yeah.
Sorry, speaking as a person who works in animation, it's really true, and we love working off of voice actors.
Yeah. And the more fun you have, the more broad you can get sometimes. For animators, they love it because it's easier to animate and come up with a characterization and with interesting drawings and interesting movements when you give them something to work with. If it's really flat, it's like, then you have to come up with all the action yourself and some type of a look for them that will at least be interesting. When it's a real sort of flat read, you're like, I don't know, how are we going to make this guy look, right? But I love those characters. I think I've played probably 15 dogs in my life, so I don't mind them at all.
All right.
Your career's gone to the dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg,
you threw it out there.
Nah, it's what he does.
Yeah, no, you gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Are we?
Yeah, we're pretty much done.
All right.
So wrap it up.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching, everyone.
All right.